back to another episode of For the First Time in Forever, the show that tries to fill the gaps in all of our watch lists. Last week I spoke about Brokeback Mountain, and you can check out that episode by clicking the link in the description, but this week it is time to don the Stetson once more. We embark into the American wilderness once again as we prepare to play a deadly game of cat and mouse against a hitman with a penchant for heads or tails. This is No Country for Old Men. Wait a second. I am going to be talking about spoilers for this film, so consider this your warning now.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Call it.
Call it.
Yes.
For what?
Just call it.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it.
No Country for Old Men is written and directed by the incomparable Coen brothers, earning their first Academy Awards for Best Picture and Best Director, and also picking up an award for Best Screenplay, an award that they had won for Fargo. It was a critical darling when it premiered in Cannes. Critics and audiences alike were swinging from the chandelier singing this film's praises. Now, my exposure to the work of the Coen brothers is fairly limited. In fact, I could probably count all the films that I have seen of theirs on one hand. But given all the acclaim that this film had, my expectations were incredibly high. Taking place in the early 1980s, No Country features a number of characters embroiled in a giant cat and mouse game with a case of money at the centre being sought after from numerous parties. Josh Brolin is the one on the run as he faces a relentless pursuit courtesy of Javier Bardem's deeply unsettling Anton Chigurh. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. Like, Chigurh? It's spelled like Choigurg, but it's not that. Once again, not being overly familiar with the work of the Coen brothers, this film, in terms of its tone, felt very different to the films of theirs that I had seen. Films like The Big Lebowski, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Hail Caesar, those films rely on the Coen brothers' effortless dry wit, really unusual sense of comedy, and almost like a dark sense of humour. And for this, it's very different. Instead, what they deliver is a brilliantly tense and brutal thriller. Right from the off, we see Anton Chigurh being picked up by the police officer, and then him really violently murder that police officer, and then goes and finds just a random stranger and blow his head out with this air pressurizer cannon thing he's got. And at that point you realise that this man is certainly not someone you want to trifle with. In fact, and I can say this with complete confidence, Anton Chigurh is easily one of the most menacing, unsettling, and downright terrifying movie villains that we've had in the past few decades, and a lot of that has to do with the way he's written. Chigurh is basically this void of empathy. He has no remorse for anything that he's doing. His only goal is trying to focus on his next kill or his next mission. He's pretty much like a Terminator in some respects, but without the metal endoskeleton. The Coen brothers surround his character in this shroud of mystery that we don't know that much about him. We don't know what his actual intentions are. All we know is that he is just this figure that will come for you, and you don't have a chance in hell. But the character would not be anywhere near as iconic if it wasn't for Javier Bardem's award-winning performance. Bardem adds this silent, almost haunting presence to the character. We see in a few instances Anton just appear into the frame almost out of thin air. Like, before you begin to recognize it, he's behind or in the background of the shot, and you don't even remember him actually manifesting onto that frame. It's almost like this guy isn't even a man. He's not even human. This is death incarnate, walking around amongst us all, ready to take his next victim. Every interaction he has, be it with those that he kills or those that he spares, through Bardem's really reserved intensity, we as the audience know that no matter the situation, he is the one that controls the situation. Josh Brolin also turns in a very strong performance as Llewellyn Moss, who is a hunter that, after he finds the case full of money, eventually becomes the prey. Tommy Lee Jones also pops up as the local sheriff of the town, who's kind of 2 steps behind the unfolding events between Moss and Chigurh. It looks gorgeous, but again, that's a foregone conclusion when you hire Roger Deakins to shoot your film. And there is also no score whatsoever. And as a big score junkie, that usually would put me off. But I have to say, a score would have hurt this film. In most cases for film, music is integral to creating an atmosphere. But for No Country for Old Men, the tension is created through a meticulously designed and crafted direction and editing. It's almost like a film that uses a score is like taking a calculator into your maths test. It's not going to give you the answer straight away, but it's definitely going to help. And that's why that the absence of music and the fact that the Coen brothers were able to craft genuinely nail-biting sequences of tension is just so impressive. That entire shootout and chase scene between Moss and Chigurh that happens about halfway through the film is hands down one of the most intense scenes within the past 20 years. The story also has a lot of moving parts. There are many parties after this case. Moss is being hunted by Chigurh, who in turn is being tracked by Tommy Lee Jones and his police crew. Kelly MacDonald, who plays Moss's wife, is also having to stay on her toes in case Chigurh comes a-calling. You've also got Woody Harrelson, who works for a separate business that may or may not have links to Chigurh, and he's trying to approach Moss to get a hold of the case without Chigurh having to get involved, and then Chigurh tries to track down Woody Harrelson as if to say, dude, stop interfering, and then Tommy Lee Jones is there in the background riding his horse. It's in the hands of any other directors who aren't the Coen brothers, who are less skilled than them, this would have been a giant, confusing, confuddling mess. Joel and Ethan Coen have such a firm grasp on this constantly moving, evolving story. However, and it brings me no joy to say this, I do feel like this film is slightly overhyped. Don't get me wrong, it's a great film, and it's a brilliant showcase of some of the talents such as Deakins, the Coen brothers, Javier Bardem, but it is unfortunately that final act, the ending of this film, that kind of let me down. Because the first 2/3 of this film are very, very close to hitting that god tier level. But the ending... Right, yeah, let's talk about the ending. After seemingly setting up a big final confrontation between Moss and Chigurh, the screen fades to black as Moss enters El Paso, Texas. As we return, Tommy Lee Jones is seen stepping into a motel, and we see the body of Moss, who had been gunned down in an altercation between himself and the Mexican cartel. From that point on, we then see Tommy Lee Jones mope around a bit. Chigurh confront Moss's wife, and her fate is left completely is left a complete mystery. We don't know whether she's still alive come the end of the film or not. Chigurh then gets involved in a car crash and hobbles away, and then Tommy Lee Jones recalls a dream that he had about his father, and I played that final scene at least 4 or 5 times to try and like wrap my head around it, and I don't get what it was going for. The final act really bothered me. And it wasn't because we were deprived of that big final confrontation, because that's all it was. It was meant to be teasing that, but it's something that we never actually got. But what it felt like instead was that they just didn't tie all of the loose threads that were left dangling down. It just kind of leaves them be, and you never actually get a conclusion. I still don't know what the purpose of Tommy Lee Jones' sheriff was. Like, it's great to have him in the film. He's a brilliant actor, and he was great in the role. But in terms of the overall story, I just don't know what purpose he served. Instead of having those final moments be kind of ambiguous, it never felt like that to me. It just felt like it had kind of ended without wrapping anything up. And instead of leaving it open for debate and discussion, it just kind of all felt a bit irritating. Now, obviously, I understand that it's following the novel that this film was based on, and obviously you can't detract too much, but at the same time, I don't feel like any of the character arcs were particularly resolved. If I were judging the film based on 95 minutes, I would be singing its praises like the masses before me. It is, again, beautifully shot by Deakins, brilliantly directed by the Coen brothers. The script, for the most part, is really tight, fantastic dialogue, incredibly tense. Javier Bardem is fantastic. Josh Brolin and Tommy Lee Jones are really, really good as well. But that ending, it just left a really sour taste in my mouth. So, after watching No Country for Old Men for the first time in forever, despite the ending, I'm still happy to say it's worth it. Anyway guys, those are my thoughts on that film. Let me know what you thought of No Country for Old Men down in the comments below. As some of you already know, we are on the road to 300 subscribers. So if you are watching this video and you are not already subscribed, what are you doing? Click that subscribe button down below. And if you are already subscribed, please feel free to share this video, share this channel around. So hopefully we can get to 300 subscribers very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching guys, and here is a little teaser of what you can expect next week. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please make sure that you click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All the links to my social media accounts, my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and my letterbox are all in the description below. And if you haven't liked the video, what are you still doing here?